Hello, I'm Andrew Ogun. I'm Agent for Change at the Arts Council of Wales, the head of Black Lives Matter Gwent, and also a multidisciplinary artist specializing in poetry, music, and creative direction. For me, this charter point clearly speaks to that sense of self and is really about, it's an inward looking point, and it's about you being able to challenge and question and again, be introspective towards yourself and the views you hold and where your beliefs and your values and your kind of moral compass lies, because it's about consistently asking yourself, you know, am I saying the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? And am I actually working actively towards being able to say that I'm doing and saying the right things? It's not about being passive. It's a very active charter point about, actively questioning yourself and challenging yourself, because that's what this is all about. Nobody should claim to hold all the answers. I don't believe anybody does, myself included, my organization included, but you have to try and you have to constantly be willing to learn and listen and engage in a way that's not extractive or in a way that doesn't cause more harm, you know. And then I think once you've done that part of the process, then it's about using your position. Then if you are in a position of power or influence or privilege, in which I think we all are in at least one facet or context of our lives, is going to be a relation you have in which you are likely the more influential one in that relationship. And in that situation, okay, now that I have this knowledge, what can I do with it? How can I challenge others? I've now gone through the process of challenging myself. Do I feel comfortable and confident enough to then challenge negativity or things that don't align with my moral compass or my values when I see it? Because that's then the next stage where I think a lot of people seemingly fall apart, or where the tension lies, is because, okay, it's easy for you to walk around and be the best version of yourself, but do you then have the strength to be able to stop and challenge someone else if you see them kind of not aligning with your views? And I think, again, that's where the power really lies. That's where courage and bravery and all of these traits come in, because you have to be able to do that. Otherwise, it leads to passiveness, and that passiveness becomes apathy, and that apathy then becomes cynicism. Really, I think that's how that journey starts. And then, yeah, it's about also moving beyond the individual or the personal, and looking at structures, looking at the bigger picture, which is again another place in which people kind of stumble. It's easy to associate these things with the kind of little things that are happening around you, but what happens when we start looking at it within a wider context, and again looking at those structures which are far more intangible, far more under the surface, far more insidious, more difficult to tackle, because there's no direct target and the goalposts always get moved. So again, you have to be able to know where to draw your lines, and where you can challenge and where you can push back. And I think that's what this point is indicating. The biggest challenge is fear. The biggest challenge is fear. People are scared to call things out for a variety of reasons: job security, social isolation. You know, there's a lot of consequences sometimes to speaking the truth, or speaking your truth rather. And I think you have to push through that fear factor. I don't think anyone that lives within their truth and is willing to challenge it, for me, is never lacking, no matter what, in any instance. And I think I learned that from my mother. So I've always called things out where I see it, whether it kind of hindered me or not, because I live in that. That's my value. That's the hill that I would choose to kind of die on or lay my sword on. So I think fear is the biggest factor. I also think kind of the complexity of it can be an issue as well. Like, there's no quick fix or easy solution to these things. It's something that kind of you plant the seeds, and it's a long-term change. And you know, people get impatient, people get frustrated, people get apathetic, because in maybe not seeing the results or the changes they want to see right here, right now. So again, it's a long-term game. It's a game that's about legacy and longevity, and making real, lasting, embedded, sustainable change, which obviously cannot happen overnight. You know, it is something that you might grind and grind and grind. But again, you have to have faith and hope that the end result is always going to be worth it. So I think kind of impatience and fear are probably two of the biggest barriers to implementing this plan. I think obviously my appointment and the creation of my role in the first place has been a major kind of way to shift the organization's previous model and previous kind of value system to a newer one that makes more sense in the context and culture we're currently working in. So I think that was a huge step. And obviously within my role, you know, this thing falls right into my portfolio, and that's to do with training, unconscious bias training that we've undertaken, that myself and my assistant have curated for the Arts Council. So that's been unconscious bias on race. We're currently just wrapped up a training on LGBTQ+. We're looking at neurodiversity and got some training coming up in the next few weeks on that as well. So again, we're recognizing our needs and where we need to kind of bolster our knowledge and our information in order that we can work in the best way possible and adopt the best practices. And I think kind of diversifying our workforce with, you know, diversifying our council, the introduction of arts associates. I think those are the kind of things that, again, bringing different lived experience, bringing different perspectives in the room, can only serve as a good thing in this journey, in terms of sometimes, again, that's the whole thing with the unconscious. You may not know you hold these views until this challenge, until it's aired out. And I think the more diverse people you have within a room, the likelihood is that you're going to learn something new and gain a different perspective. It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one because I don't think we can generalize or kind of have a blanket statement on that, because how people feel is how people feel. Like, for example, I know I might be one of the only people that look like me in my workplace, but I personally, luckily, have never experienced that, and I've never felt kind of tokenized. That I feel valued in my kind of approach and in what I bring to the table. Now, other people might not feel the same, and it could be as a result of the environment, which means that problem is external, and it's something we need to discuss and obviously challenge and question and probe why that person has been made to feel that way. And again, that can happen unconsciously, consciously, kind of inadvertently, without people realizing they're actually tokenizing this person. But sometimes I think it's to do with a personal and actually that person feeling comfortable in, you know, it's kind of the other way, that the person feels uncomfortable in that environment. And then I think that's about kind of personally asking yourself, what is it about this environment that's making me uncomfortable? And that's also an important conversation you have to have with yourself when you're stepping into places in which you are a minority. For the most part, in where we are in Wales, you probably will be in these large organizations and institutions. So there has to be an awareness and an understanding of what you're stepping into, but also what can that organization do to make you feel more comfortable and accepted. And I think that's about kind of placing value on you, not just coming to you to do work that is to do with this. You know, not every person of color or person from an ethnically or culturally diverse background wants to spend the entirety of their lives talking about their race and their experience. They have other things that they bring to the table, other interests, other facets of their identity that are as important. And again, I think platforming that as well is as important as platforming the lived experience. You know, we're not just here to converse about equity and diversity and inclusivity. We bring a lot more to the table. So how can you tap into that? And I think that's a kind of quick way to kind of change that and shift that dynamic, is by actually valuing people beyond just their kind of characteristic of being someone who's LGBTQ or being someone who is Black, etc., etc.